Hello, I'm here. There's a thing called Lent. This video is applicable for changing any habits you want to. Okay, basically, we all know that feeling of making Lenten resolutions, making New Year's resolutions, any type of resolution where like, I'm gonna change my life, I'm gonna drink less coffee. Yeah, right. I'm gonna exercise more, blah, 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 blah. We all know that stuff. And we're like, I'm gonna do it. And then, like, 3 days later, 4 days later, a week later, you're just like, oh wait, what was that thing that I was supposed to do? Here's why you don't stick to your resolutions. Because you do not see the thing that you want to do, the change that you want to make. I don't see the no exercise to exercise, or eating more to eating less, or changing my lifestyle. I don't see the change as a good. Or at least I see it as a good, but the good that I'm living now, the good of not exercising, the good of whatever, it's more of a good than the other one, if this is making any sense. The lesser good is perceived as a greater good, and therefore you don't want to make the change. Because here's the thing, human beings desire the good, naturally. What our intellects perceive as good, our wills desire that. So when you want to change a habit, what you have to do is change your mind. Now that sounds like cheesy and everything like that, but that's really that's the case. Is if you want to change your habit, you have to change your perception, your mindset. It's literally feeding yourself those truths. Fasting to build discipline, to grow closer to God. That is a greater good than eating the foods that I like, or eating the amount of food that I like. Growing closer to God is a greater good than this food or this music or anything else that I'm going to be eating or drinking or listening to or watching or anything like that. When you're making your Lenten resolutions this year, really what you got to do is say, okay, this good. I mean, like, food is a good, music is a good, social media is a good in its own way. Having having money, that's a good. All of these things are good things. Hanging out with my friends is a good, but what is also a good? What's a greater good? Growing closer to God, growing in virtue, growing in discipline, growing in prayer, growing in selflessness, growing in generosity. All of these things are even greater goods that last. And that's why we make those changes. And that's what you got to tell yourself when you're making that resolution. And when you're making that resolution, is to say, okay, this is a greater good and it's worth it in the long run. Make your decisions in light of eternity. And the great thing is, God, once you are sufficiently attached to Him, you're able to enjoy the things of this world, the good things of this world, the good things of this world, in a greater, more temperate way than before, when you were just like grasping for it. Because that's often what we're doing, is we're attached to something, we're grasping for something. But when God says, no, I want to purify your love for this thing. And so that's why we're going to work on this discipline. Because what we all dream of is happiness. We want what's going to make us happy. And so I'm like, okay, that cookie is going to make me happy. That hanging out with my friends and watching this movie, that's going to make me happy. And it will, to some extent. They're good things. But what's the greater lasting? The greatest happiness is virtue. The greatest happiness is contemplation. And it takes a really long time to see it. And it's a process, and it's a poco a poco, little by little process of growing closer and letting God instruct you and teach you. But ultimately, it's worth it in the long run. Another thing to remember is God wants your best. And so sometimes we can be like children. I read an article, like, we can be like children, hiding in the cupboard, eating all of the chocolate chips, even though we're not supposed to, and hiding from Dad because we think he's going to get mad at us. When really what he wants to do is say, no, I'm going to give you something even better than just the hot chocolate chips. I'm going to give you healthy food. I'm like, chocolate's great in moderation. I'm going to give you healthy food that's going to really give you nutrients. And then I'll give you the chocolate cake at the end. Or the chocolate ice cream. I prefer chocolate ice cream to cake. Anyway, that's me. But that's what we're doing this Lent. growing closer to a Father who loves us. And so this Lent, choose one thing for fasting, one thing for almsgiving, one thing for prayer. Don't try to overwhelm yourself. Focus on one thing. And it's ultimately what you want to do is, what's keeping me from going, ask him, what's keeping me from growing close to you in prayer, in virtue, in selflessness? How can I replace the not as good, or either the bad or the not as good, with the better? That's what, because saying I'm going to give up X and focusing on the thing that you're giving up is not going to make you want to give that thing up. What you gotta do is focus on the good thing. So instead of saying I'm gonna give up music and focusing on the, oh my gosh, I have to give up music, this is the end of the world, or like, not all music, but like, I have to get rid of, I'm going to give up music on these days, or I'm not going to listen to music at this time. Say, I'm going to spend this time in silence with Jesus. Focus on the good that you're pursuing, the better that you're pursuing. It's the best. Jesus is the best. That's what we're focusing on. All the good stuff in moderation. And then Jesus is the best thing ever. And you just gotta trust that he's enough, because he is. And I mean, we're human. And so we've got the physical aspect, but it's really like, it's living for heaven, living for the heavenly banquet where we will get to eat food forever in eternity. It's the resurrection, guys. That's what the resurrection is. Resurrection is a surprise beyond our wildest dreams. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope it helps you, and it gives you the tools to have a solid Lent this year, to persevere through whatever you need to persevere through to get closer to Jesus. So if you have any thoughts, questions, feelings, desires, just put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And like I said, get holy and have fun doing it.